Hello, guys and gals, and welcome. So we finally got news on when ladder, where the public test realm ladder is going to be held. We got patch notes. We got lots of cool stuff. I mean, I know I made a video just the other day about this stuff, and I was like, "It's coming soon." Well, little did you know, soon was literally like March 2nd, because that's when it's coming. It's March 2nd. Dear Lord, whew! I had to run up here. I was running. I'm excited. All right, so Diablo 2 Resurrected Patch 2.4 Ladder Testing Preview Blog. The upcoming PTR 2.4 test goes live on March 2nd and will focus on ladder functionality, Uber Diablo changes, additional balance changes, and bug fixes since our previous PTR. This is a continuation of our previous PTR, so any balance changes mentioned here are on top of the changes that were already live as of our last PTR. You can refresh yourself on the specifics of the changes we've made so far on the original patch notes. We look forward to your participation in PTR and hope players continue to share feedback. With your help, we can continue the legacy of making Diablo 2 Resurrected the ARPG we all cherish. PTR focus and details. Heroes of Sanctuary, thank you for outpouring feedback on some of the first changes made to Diablo 2 in over a decade. We return to you with adjustments to those changes based on your thoughts, opinions, and survey answers. With this round of changes, we spent most of our efforts on the areas where the feedback was overwhelmingly unified, as well as some areas where we may not have pushed hard enough for meaningful change. We would love to hear more of your thoughts on these iterations. As we progress in this PTR, please be aware there may be periodic maintenances, outages, hotfixes, or minor patches. All of the changes implemented in this PTR are not set in stone. We want to gauge reception and feedback on these changes before we make them final for live. We encourage our PTR participants to explore and play following content updates. So we got the ladder season changes, the Uber Diablo updates, and the various balance changes. Offline single-player note. Patch 2.4 introduces changes to character save data as a result of our new balance changes. A new folder has been created to support players' offline testing. That sounds to me like the save files are undergoing a form of change, which will probably make them inaccessible to the older versions. This is common when you go to new versions, so the old save files get updated to the newer data. And we may be looking at a situation very similar, where basically the new data is unreadable by the old system. So keep that in mind. It does look like they've taken the appropriate actions, though, which is to copy our save files over to the new folder, and then you have the originals still in place. Players will now be able to test classes from previous versions of Diablo 2 Resurrected by importing those character files into this folder. So you'll have to copy your files over, unlike the last PTR where it was automatic. Please leave your feedback in the PTR forum. If you discover any bugs, please report them in the PTR bug forum. So without further ado, let's dive into the changes. Ladder testing. So we are very excited to invite you all to test ladder functionality on PTR. The Diablo 2 Resurrected ladder launch represents an optional ranked competitive system of the game through a series of modes available to select with a fresh ladder-specific character. Each mode will have their own leaderboard where players compete to strategically gain experience within a limited time frame while having access to ladder-specific content. When the ladder season ends, leaderboard rankings will reset, transitioning characters to non-ladder mode, giving players an opportunity to store their hard-earned treasured loot as a new ladder season awaits them. For PTR test, we would love you to focus your attention on the presentation of ladder in the front end and the way the new balance changes impact ladder play. Feature details. Ladder is now available for testing, and the team will be emulating a ladder season, start and end, during the PTR. Players can use /ladder and /help-ladder chat commands to retrieve season start and end information. Ladder information is made available in the Leaderboard UI, and for console players will be updated upon loading into each game. At the end of a season, your ladder character will be converted to a non-ladder character, along with any ladder-exclusive items your character had equipped or in their inventory. Once a season ends, you will have until the start of the season after next to retrieve items from your seasonal ladder shared stash to bring to your normal online play. So basically one full ladder cycle is what they're saying. one full ladder cycle, and then your items, I guess, will just go away. That makes sense. For example, once season ends, you have until season 3 begins to retrieve items from your season 1 stash. Any items not retrieved will be lost forever. So yeah, basically. Now this is the one I'm excited about, which is Uber Diablo changes. The way the players summon Uber Diablo in Diablo 2 Resurrected today will remain the same as it was first introduced in version 1.10 by selling Stone of Jordan rings. However, we have made some changes to how and where the progress is calculated that we hope will make the experience better for the entire community. We're eager to hear your feedback. Uber Diablo progress for each game will now be kept by the regional database. When the threshold is met by selling enough Stone of Jordan rings, Uber Diablo will spawn for everyone in the same region, not only those on the same server instance. Progress toward Uber Diablo is now tracked per game, giving us a total of 8 progressions being tracked. Those being Classic, Classic Hardcore, Classic Ladder, Classic Hardcore Ladder, Expansion, Expansion Hardcore, Expansion Ladder, Expansion Hardcore Ladder. Given this change, we have added a new messaging for players to help them anticipate when Uber Diablo may spawn. This messaging will be sent out to all players in the region at certain tiers of progress and can be manually checked by using the /Uber Diablo chat command. We hope these changes allow more players to get to experience the true terror that is Uber Diablo. That's absolutely great. I'm excited to see them change that. Class changes. So we've got some new updates to the classes. Animation speed for Impale is increased by 30%. That was definitely needed. That was something that I noted in the public test before, was it just was way too slow. It did need to be speeded up a little bit. It was definitely faster than it was before, but it wasn't fast enough. And I think with the 30% increase, it should be where it needs to be. Plague Javelin Poison duration is no longer fixed at 3 seconds, as it was in the previous PTR, but its duration and damage scaling have been adjusted. Compared to live, this should net out to a 20% damage per second increase at level 1 and up to a 33% damage per second increase at max level. Multi-shot. Added a synergy from Guided Arrow, 12% physical damage per level. Wow, that's I didn't expect them to do anything with Guided Arrow. That's a lot. That's a pretty big buff. We're going to be testing that out. Immolation Arrow cooldown reduced by 40%. That's about how much I expected. Because when I tested it on live, on PTR, what it felt like was it needed to be about 50% faster, and they went with 40% faster, which is fine. It's only 10% less, but it definitely needed to be a little bit faster than it was before. Added synergy for multi-shot, 12% physical damage per level to Guided Arrow. So multi-shot and Guided Arrow now synergize with each other. That's absolutely excellent. Guided Arrow is going to get a little bit of its love back. Guided Arrow always has been a little bit of a redheaded stepchild, and I use that phrase lovingly since I am also a redhead. I don't think I'm a stepchild, but it definitely needed some buffs. Strafe, synergy from multi-shot, 5% physical damage per level. Synergy from Guided Arrow, 10% physical damage per level. So interesting. We noted your feedback that it feels odd that physical bow skills don't have any synergies like cold and fire bow skills do. We hope that giving some synergies to the physical bow skills will help them remain viable. Assassin. Wake of Inferno. Added yards calculation to the Wake of Inferno tooltip. Blade Fury attack rating increased by 10%. Interesting. So they did hear us on the Blade Fury didn't have enough attack rating front. Barbarian now deals extra physical damage to surrounding enemies within a range of 4.6 yards when landing from a leap attack. Damage scales per level. So they added an AoE damage for our leap attack. That sounds pretty awesome. Modified leap and leap attack jump to give it smoother trajectory that should keep the barbarian on screen at all times and reduce jerkiness when he lands. Leap and leap attack now have a minimum jump height and duration. Increased mana cost of leap attack from 9 to 10. We saw an opportunity to make leap attack more viable by changing to fantasy to make the leap itself an attack. By doing this, we feel the combat viability of the skill will increase while preserving it as a movement skill. We feel that this change paired with the animation changes we made to it brings the leap attack more in line with the fantasy and we feel we want to have. Sword Mastery renamed to Blade Mastery. Now affects daggers in addition to swords. Oh, nice. So you might be able to see a barbarian using like dual fang flesh rippers. Those are pretty awesome daggers. Increased base attack bonus from 40% to 28%. This is a really big bonus, and there are a lot of really nice daggers in the game that could be very useful for situations like this. Axe Mastery attack rating increased by 12%, increased base attack bonus to 40% from 28. So it looks like they got attack rating increases across the board for all the masteries. That's definitely very nice. Throwing Mastery also got the attack rating increase. Added chance to not consume quantity per level up. Absolutely amazing. Critical strikes with throwing weapons now replenish quantity. All very good changes. Throwing Mastery definitely had some issues with quantity. So they increased the quantity of throwing items. Now they've also made it so that Barbarian has a chance to not consume quantity per level of throwing mastery, and then also has the chance to replenish quantity. I think these are both very good changes for throwing mastery Barbarians, and quite honestly could make the difference between whether you're going to build one or not. Armageddon. Remove the Hurricane skill requirement for Armageddon. That was definitely something that should have been done a long time ago. If you guys are unaware, previously to build Armageddon, you had to go all the way down the Hurricane tree to do it. So if you wanted to be an Armageddon Druid, it was already not really the greatest skill in the world, but they also forced you to spend, what was it, 1 point in Cyclone, 1 point in Arctic Blast, 1 point in Tornado, 1 point in Twister, 1 point in Hurricane. So you had to spend 5 points just to even get there, which was not good. And let me just say this, that the Fire Tree already has way too many synergies. And being forced to spend 5 points to get down to Armageddon was it was awful. It was worse than you could imagine because the character already had a huge number of issues with those synergies and spending too many skill points in synergies. And those extra 5 points were like a deal breaker. Increased missile damage radius of Armageddon by 32% from 3 to 4. Increased missile drop rate of Armageddon by 30% from 3 per second to 4. Also keep in mind, though, that this buff to Armageddon is going to affect Uber Diablo. So Uber Diablo has Armageddon. He has permanent Armageddon always on when you fight him. So sounds like he's going to be hitting harder. The radius of the explosions are going to be much more likely to hit you. And it looks like he's going to be dropping more of them per second. So definitely keep that in mind. Druids can now have Spirit Wolves, Dire Wolves, and Bears all summoned at the same time. The restriction of Druid being allowed only one type of summonable at a time has restricted the viability of this build and has hampered the fantasy of a Druid summoner from living up to its full potential. We feel that a Druid being able to summon all of his allies at once will make for more interesting and fun playstyle. Absolutely amazing. I do feel like this was a change that a lot of us had expected, that we never expected to actually come to a reality, but it is now. So now the Druid can have his entire army up at one time. This may come with some balancing, though. So if it ends up being broken OP, do expect to see some nerfs coming our way. Werewolf now only uses the new attack speed calculation that was originally introduced in PTR. Werewolf now only uses the new attack speed calculation that was originally introduced in PTR. Raised werewolf attack speed cap from 75% to 150%. Maybe they found a new way to deal with the attack speed calculation issues. We'll have to test this out. Increased speed between attacks by 40% on Fury. Werebear now only uses the new attack speed calculation that was originally introduced in PTR. Raised Werebear attack speed cap from 75% to 150%. Damage bonus per level increased from 8% to 15%. Base defense value increased from 25% to 40%. They're really beefing up the bear. Defense bonus per cat level increased from 6% to 10%. Cannot be interrupted while performing attacks or skills. Whoa. So they're making the bear uninterruptible. That might change a lot of people's opinions on the bear. The bear being uninterruptible is a huge buff for the bear. Maul now grants 3% attack speed per charge. Wow. We've debated on the best way to bring shapeshifting druids forward. After much discussion, we are going to commit to the modern way of calculating attack speed for were forms. We have rebalanced the werewolf to allow that form to reach even faster speeds than it could previously. As for werebear, we want to deliver on the fantasy of a powerful, unstoppable killing machine. We've introduced uninterruptible attacks and skills as well as increased damage and defense. While this will change the way players have played the werebear in the past, we feel like it is more in line with the intended fantasy for players who love their fast werebear builds. We've added attack speed bonuses to Maul. We've also hoped the new werewolf changes will offer them in the same style of play, as it is now the faster form. I'm not really sure how this is going to be seen. I would like to see how these new calculations come into play. A lot of people are worried that it's going to ruin their weapons. Like, for instance, if they had like a perfect, 3-socket ethereal Tomb Reaver with a Zod in it, they've invested a lot of effort and time to get this item, and I hope that this doesn't mess that up. Okay, I guess we're going to find out. Necromancer, 20% reduction in mana cost applied per level to Blood Golem. Attack damage increased about 10%. Fire Golem, 20% reduction in mana cost applied per level. That one definitely needed the mana cost reduction. At max level, the Fire Golem could take up literally your entire mana pool in one cast. Attack damage increased by about 20%. Holy Fire level bonus per level restored to 1 from 2. We've heard your feedback that golems don't feel valuable enough as skills without giving them a larger overhaul. We hope these changes will make them feel powerful enough to use more often. Paladin, Thorns now deals a flat amount of damage when hit in addition to returning a percentage of damage taken to the enemy when hit. So now they've reverted the change. So it used to be a flat damage, and now it is a combination of both a percentage and a flat damage. We'll have to see how that turns out. The flat damage by itself wasn't good. It was overpowered in normal and nightmare difficulty, and it was stupidly unusable in hell difficulty. So I'm hoping that this will change that. Holy Fire changed how the proximity bonus for area damage is calculated. It will now deal 200% damage to enemies at melee range. Tooltip: the maximum area damage values incorporate the maximum proximity damage bonus. Resist fire synergy increased from 18 to 21%. The maximum area damage values incorporate the maximum proximity damage bonus. Not really quite sure what that's going to translate out to. Changed how the proximity bonus for area damage is calculated. So again, same thing here. So it's going to do 200% damage to enemies in melee range. It sounds like that was originally their intention, but it also sounds like that's not how it worked out, because when in the test server we were seeing the 200% damage bonus being applied to monsters that were much further away than melee range. So it sounds like you're only going to get that 200% damage bonus now when you're directly next to the monster. The maximum area damage values incorporate for maximum proximity damage bonus. Holy Shock got the same change. Sanctuary got the same change. Looks like all the auras got restored to how they were before, but with some differences in the way that the system calculates the damage. So it's interesting. I'm still trying to process this here. I can only assume that they must have figured out what it was that was making it broken before, and they fixed it. That's all I can assume there. Holy Bolt now damages demons in addition to undead. That was a really good change. I'm pretty sure I recommended that, in fact. Fist of the Heavens now damages demons in addition to undead. So very, very nice. So Holy Bolt might actually be something that we can use. After seeing feedback to removal of area damage scaling in our PTR balance patch, we agree that it is an interesting mechanic that is worth trying to balance properly. We've reworked how the proximity damage bonus is calculated while retaining the maximum 200% possible damage bonus. Nova mana cost reduced. The initial mana cost is now 13 from 15. Interesting. Mercenaries, Act 1 Rogue Archer can now use Amazon-only bows. Wow. Can now gain Amazon skill bonuses from gear. Freaking, that's a pretty interesting change. That's going to make the Act 1 Rogues a lot more powerful. Act 3 Iron Wolf swapped frozen armor for chilling armor. Not really quite sure about that change. Frozen armor really kept them alive. The freezing effect on frozen armor was definitely very nice. But I do think that the armor bonus is higher on chilling armor, so we'll see. Act 5 Barbarian Warrior can now gain plus Barbarian skill bonuses from gear. I always thought they could. Well, the specific ones on the helmet and stuff they could, but I don't know about like just like plus barb skills. Now, ferocious barbarian. A new ferocious barbarian is available for hire from Qualkek. These warriors cannot use two-handed swords, but are well trained in the art of dual wielding. Utilizing the frenzy, taunt, and iron skin abilities, they lure enemies in and unleash a fierce barrage of attacks. Wow! So we're gonna be able to put some dual wield stuff on the barbarians. This is gonna be fun. That's gonna be a very interesting way to build some barbarian mercs. I think a lot of people are going to be excited about that. Developer comments: Our hope with these changes are to continue to bring the non-Act 2 mercenaries up in viability so they see increased usage and push each one further into their class archetype by allowing them to use class-specific equipment. Rune words. Plague can now be used on claws and daggers in addition to swords. Excellent. I'm going to be making one of these in a dagger. I actually have a fanged knife, a 3-socket fanged knife, just waiting specifically for this rune word in a dagger. That is an excellent, excellent change. Infinity, Obedience, and Pride can now be used by spears and Amazon-only spears. So they're beefing up the spear Amazon. They're giving them the ability to use these amazing weapons. Infinity is an absolutely amazing spear for a freaking lightning Javazon or Spearzon. That would actually be excellent. Obedience is an absolutely amazing, easy to make one that could be used by Amazons, and being able to make them in Amazon spears is a pretty big buff. Level up in area monsters, increased unique monster density in the new level 85 areas, so we're going to have that to look forward to. So if you guys haven't seen my video on the new level 85 zones, I do have that video up on my channel, and I go over every single zone, and I go to every single zone, and we look at all the monsters that potentially can spawn in those zones, and we talk about it. So it does look like they're beefing up the number of unique monsters that can be spawned in those zones. So keep that in mind in the future. General and miscellaneous updates. Added player messaging for when a player tries to launch the game on an out-of-date patch version. Added message of the day capabilities to the main menu to allow us to share important game updates with all players. Improved reliability of pets, summons, and mercenaries teleporting to the player instead of being despawned. Barbarian. Updated Barbarian leap and leap attack animation behavior to give it smoother trajectory that should keep the Barbarian on screen at all times and reduce jerkiness when he lands. Newly created characters all now sort to the top of the character creation list. Mercenaries. Mercenary UIs will now display if the mercenary cannot use a skill because they are too low level. Online. Added a messaging if player attempts to create a private channel with a name longer than the character limit. Added a offline chat command which sets your character presence to offline. Vendors. Players can now buy pre-filled tomes and keys while using the controller. Performance. Optimized particle effects on some console platforms. Added VFX quality option for PC players. Optimized inventory quick move actions to reduce delay. The offline game difficulty scaling or scale setting will now persist between game sessions. That's nice. Added an option to choose whether or not to confine your mouse cursor to the game screen. Added a VRAM usage bar in the settings. Bug fixes. Accessibility. Fixed some issues in the UI that could occur when using large font mode. Fixed an issue where your attack speed while dual wielding could be incorrectly calculated depending on which hand it was held in or which order they were equipped in. I do remember that being something that people talk about a lot. And although I don't play barbarians religiously, I never really did too much research into it, but it does sound like they've fixed it. So maybe it doesn't matter anymore which hand you put your weapon in and what order you equip them. Fixed an issue where Grimoire synergy from Fine Potion wasn't functioning. That's good. I'll be excited to test that out. Fixed an issue where Hunger was not costing mana if it was cast without a target selected. Druid Solar Creeper will now properly consume corpses and restore mana whenever the Druid is missing mana. Rabies now properly consumes mana when your attack misses. Paladin fixed an issue where you wouldn't be able to weapon swap if you were wielding a bow with no ammo as a Paladin on a controller. Fixed an issue where you could not disable auras as a Paladin if you were using a bow without ammunition on controller. Fixed an issue where Conviction Aura Tooltip would display incorrect information. Fixed an issue where Sanctuary Aura was not granting its bonus damage to undead. That's a scary one right there. So if you guys are unaware, Sanctuary never really applied actual bonus damage to undead. What it actually did instead was it reduced the physical resistance of the undead, and it's one of the things that people have used quite extensively to get by physical immunes in the undead category. and I am hoping that they didn't remove that. But maybe they just added the bonus damage without removing the negative physical resistance. So I guess we'll have to test that out. Fixed an issue where Sacrifice was not hitting moving targets. I always felt like Sacrifice was not hitting properly, so we'll have to test that out as well. I've talked about that many times during live streams that Sacrifice was not hitting all the time, and I always felt like it wasn't working properly. Fixed an issue where using a skill could be interrupted if a player dodges, avoids, or blocks while executing a skill. Fixed an issue where uninterruptible skills could be interrupted within a one-frame window if you were using the skill repeatedly. Fixed an issue where the skills granted by some items sometimes couldn't be used on a controller. Fixed an issue where you could be blocked from talking to an NPC if a player initiates a trade request with you while you were talking to an NPC. Fixed an issue where weapon swap was not updating faster run walk on the game client. Fixed an issue where you would not be able to observe another player's attack animation for the rabies skill if the attack missed. Fixed an issue where skill bindings for O skills wouldn't persist after dying and joining a new game. That's very nice. That's like if you have a amulet that gives you teleport, or Enigma gives you teleport, and you'd have to rebind it every single time you join the left game. Hopefully that has fixed that. Fixed an issue where one of the Chaos Sanctuary seals was difficult to select. That would be Lord Decease's. I've very many times have had that issue. Fixed an issue where the Glacial Trail entrance wouldn't highlight. Fixed an issue where the fire enchanted monsters were doing too much damage in Nightmare difficulty. That's interesting. Fixed an issue where continuing to move after running out of stamina could cause the stamina bar not to refill. I've noticed that as well, especially since they specifically told us that stamina was supposed to regenerate after moving, but it wasn't. It wasn't doing it. So this is interesting. Fix an issue where a room in Act 1 caves has misplaced walls. Fix an issue where a player could get repeatedly placed in a stun state and unable to execute attacks. Fixed an issue where few melee skills would often miss when attacking and moving targets. Amazon Fend, Druid Fury, Paladin Sacrifice, Paladin Zeal. It's interesting. Fixed an issue where a channel ability would stop casting if you were directly targeting an enemy with your mouse prior to casting and that enemy died. They're talking about Inferno and Arctic Blast mainly. Fixed an issue where quick cast melee skills would sometimes fail to execute properly under certain circumstances. Fixed an issue where quick cast melee skills would behave different depending on if they were bound to left or right click. Behavior has been unified such that left click quick cast skills behave in the same way right click behavior operated. Fixed an issue where force move and quick cast skills could still operate when in full screen UI mode menu in legacy mode. Fix an issue that could cause players to miss their attack when using melee skills against enemies that are just barely within striking range and moving away. So this is something that I've always talked about. The slowly walking away monster is impossible to kill. It's a thing. Like literally the slowly walking away monster would always just simply you would never be able to hit them again. So basically what they're saying is that if a monster is moving slightly outside of your range while you're executing a melee skill, like just barely within your striking range, you will still be able to hit them. So hopefully this will work. I'm excited about that. I'm actually really excited about that. You can't count how many times. I can't count how many times that has happened. Character creation fixed an issue with some players could bypass character name validation and create invalid offline character names. Those characters can now be repaired. Affected players will be prompted to rename the invalid characters. Controls fixed an online issue where PlayStation controller on PC, some button prompt could appear with an Xbox controller button icon. Fixed an issue where binding a skill to key 2 without binding anything to key 1 would show the keybind UI not shown. Graphics fixed artifacting that could occur on certain VFX when using DLSS. Fixed an issue where the player would become invisible if using fade behind a transparent wall. Fixed an issue where ethereal items were appearing invisible when standing behind transparent walls. Fixed an issue where grass in Taomi Highlands could pop in and out while traversing. Fixed an issue where VFX could become missing after playing for an extended period of time on consoles. Fixed an issue where VFX could appear as black boxes on PS4 in high memory usage scenarios. Fixed a DLSS-related ghosting artifact that could occur on moving objects while the camera is stationary. Localization, fix some localization issues with skill tooltips, fix some localization issues related to user presence in Xbox social menus, fix some localization issues in settings menu, fix miscellaneous issues related to localization chat commands. Online. It fixed an issue where users in Europe or Korea were unable to block or report users. Fixed an issue with the right-click context menu options in friend list would not consistently function. Fixed an issue where you could not highlight game names and join if using a controller in the lobby menu. Fixed an issue where you could get stuck in attempting to join state if you tried to join a game through the friends list while you were rate limited. Fixed an issue where swapping between keyboard and controller on the front end could rarely force you into offline character tab and prevent access to the online tab for a small amount of time. Fixed an issue on consoles where online friends who have their presence set to appear offline in their platform settings would appear in the friends list sorted into other online friends rather than in their offline friends. Fixed an issue on Switch where if you remove someone from your friends list, they may not correctly get removed. Fixed a visual issue that could occur when opening the Project Cube in the middle of a trade with another player. Auto-generated game name and password from game sessions generated using main menu play button will now be hidden. Fixed an issue where your character selection wouldn't persist if you exited the lobby. Performance. Fixed an issue where users with the 3050 series GPU would have incorrect default graphics settings. Fixed a crash that would occur when exiting the game. Fixed a crash that would occur during Pandemonium event. Miscellaneous crash/stability fixes. Fixed an issue where your game difficulty settings on lobby would not update properly after changing characters. So we got how to participate here. If you guys have never participated in a PTR, you're going to have to download the PTR from the Battle.net app. And basically how it works is you're going to open up your Battle.net app like you normally would, and you are going to go to the actual... let me see if I can actually... I'll pull this up on camera and I'll show you guys. How about that? So display capture, pink, and so here we go. All right, so when you're in your launcher, you're going to go here to where it says little drop down, and you're going to go to Public Test Realm. So you're going to specifically check Public Test Realm. You're probably going to have to download it, install it, and then also on March 2nd, when the PTR launches, you're going to have to download the update, no doubt. So we have a lot going on here. It's already been 32 minutes for this video, so I really don't want to go over too much here. I'll probably go over more of this in a live stream later. So if you guys are interested in that, do show up for the live stream. We'll talk about all these changes, and we're obviously going to be doing this on March 2nd. So we're going to have some fun March 2nd, and we're going to be playing around with this stuff. This is going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. We have a lot of stuff here that is very, very, very cool. The animation increase for Impale is amazing. The Plague Javelin buff is nice. The multi-shot, Immolation Arrow, Guided Arrow Strafe, all of that is amazing. I'm actually kind of worried they might have made multi-shot broken, but we're going to have to test that. The attack rating bonus to Blade Fury is amazing. The leap AoE damage is something that I think is going to make a huge change for Barbarians. We'll have to see if that makes it into the live game. Who knows? The increases to attack rating on all the masteries is very, very welcome. And this one in particular, I'm really excited about. The now adds daggers to the swords category, which is freaking awesome. So now you're going to be able to use like I said, like the Flesh Ripper Fanged knife, which is an amazing knife. And then throwing mastery getting the quantity changes, that is absolutely amazing. The quantity regeneration and the chance to not consume quantity per level, both of these I think is going to make the throwing barbarian a much more viable class now. The removal of the hurricane skill for Armageddon is absolutely great, as well as the increase to its radius and rate. The summoning tree, getting all of the summons at once, is absolutely amazing. The werewolf and bear attack speed calculations going back to what they were. I'm not sure if that's going to be good or not, but they did increase the cap, so who knows? We're gonna have to take a look at this. This is going to be some very interesting stuff. But the bear itself getting like frickin' tank mode. They not only did they make his skills uninterruptible, they increased his defense and they increased his damage bonus, and they gave him a 3% attack speed per charge from Maul. So Werebear is going to be this like just massive uninterruptible tank and might actually be viable for Ubers now since he's uninterruptible. That means that all of his attacks are going to be absolutely uninterruptible. He's just going to have to get the attack rating to actually land the hits. Necromancer didn't really get much changes. They beefed up the Fire Golem and the Blood Golem, which did need beefing. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not really sure if that's going to be enough. The Paladin Thorn's aura got kind of returned to its previous state with an addition. We'll have to see how that works. All of the auras, Holy Fire, Holy Freeze, and Holy Shock, got rebuffed to their previous forms, but in a new way. So we're gonna have to take a look and see how these work. Apparently, they've really kind of fine-tuned the bonus damage, so the bonus damage is no longer applying to monsters that are far away from the Paladin. So basically, it's only going to be 200% directly in melee range now, where I think it was applying 200% to monsters that were much further away than melee range. So that's interesting. Holy Bolt and Fist of the Heavens getting damage to demons in addition to the undead is a pretty big change, and I think that's going to be freaking awesome. Act 1 Rogue Girl getting access to Amazon-only bows and Amazon-only plus to skills is like a huge bonus. Very, very huge. Act 5 Barbarian getting the same thing, getting the access to the Barbarian skill bonuses is absolutely huge. And then on top of that, we have a new Barbarian that has dual wield capabilities, which is just freaking awesome. I don't even the scope of these changes is pretty amazing. And then Plague now being able to use in claws and daggers is absolutely amazing. I'm going to see a lot of positive feedback from that, I'm sure. And Infinity, Obedience, and Pride being able to be used in spears is also freaking amazing. Infinity in a spear is going to be pretty nice, and freaking my lightning jab spears on might be looking for an Infinity spear. Level up an area monster, so increasing the density, that was actually a pretty cool change. And then hidden in these miscellaneous updates, there were some various things that may have a pretty big effect, and we're going to have to go over them really quickly. So right here, updated Barbarian Leap animation, that's going to be something to do with the way that the animation runs, and that will have an effect on anybody who wants to actually use those abilities. Improve the reliability of pet summons and mercenaries teleporting to the player. This is a pretty big thing. So as you're running along, if your mercenary gets stuck on something or your pet gets stuck on something, there's a very good chance that they will be following you correctly instead of despawning. So hopefully this has fixed a lot of those issues. They've tried to fix this a couple times before, though, so who knows. Trying to see if there's any other really big gems here just kind of hiding in plain sight. A lot of the times these changes, while they may seem relatively small and relatively insignificant, they actually end up being pretty big things. Like, for instance, this one right here fixed an issue where your attack speed while dual wielding could be incorrectly calculated depending on which hand it was held in or which order they were equipped in. This is a pretty big thing that's been known for a while. Is something that you have to do when you're playing your barbarian. You have to equip your weapons properly. You want to make sure the weapons are in the right hands and all this other crap. And if they fix this, which it seems like they have, could be a pretty big change to barbarian. Hunger not costing mana without a target selected. I'm not really sure about that one. And all these are kind of odd. A lot to do with Paladin using a bow. I guess buffs to the Strider Paladin. I'm not really sure about this one. This one seems like a sleeper. This seems like a sleeper change. One of those ones that that doesn't really seem like a lot on first glance, but probably could be a lot bigger than it seems. Like I was talking about earlier, Sanctuary applied a negative physical resistance to undead monsters. I'm hoping they didn't mess that up in some way. But I am also hoping that it adds damage to undead as well. So maybe it does both now. My hope is it does both. My fear is it will only do one. And granting bonus damage to undead is nowhere near as good as removing their physical resistance. Trust me. And fixed an issue where Sacrifice was not hitting moving targets. So this is a pretty big one. Sacrifice was always unusable to me because it was just absolutely terrible and missed targets all the time. And this is a good change, in my opinion, a good fix. Fixed an issue where skills could be interrupted if a player dodge, voids, or blocks while executing a skill. So these are both good changes here. Anything that fixes the interruptibility of bugs. So if it is a bug, it's very, very good that this stuff is getting fixed. It's never good to be interrupted with a skill when you shouldn't be interrupted with a skill. It's good to be interrupted when you should be, but it's bad to be interrupted when you shouldn't be. And as long as they're fixing bugs that are preventing us from being interrupted when we shouldn't be, then that's good. This other one in here, which was kind of interesting, was the O skills. I thought it was right here, but a lot of these are kind of just simple stuff. But another one right here, fix an issue where few melee skills would often miss when attacking moving targets. This is the same thing with the sacrifice, but it also works with Zeal sometimes. Druid's Fury and Amazon's Fend all have this issue. Fixed an ability where channel ability would stop. This is specifically Inferno and Arctic Blast. They're the only two channel abilities in the game, I think. I'm not really sure about this quick cast stuff. I didn't actually notice this myself, but if it wasn't a bug, then I'm glad that they fixed it. This one is really important to me. The fixed an issue that could cause players to miss their attack when using melee skills against enemies that are just barely within striking range and moving away. This is a pretty big buff in my opinion, because there are a lot of monsters that just kind of slowly walk away from you and they're next to impossible to hit, and this will hopefully fix that issue. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff here, but there's not a lot of like super important things here. General fixes and bugs that, of course, will make the game more stable and more usable, but nothing like super game breaking in the game. I think we pretty much covered everything. Like I said, I will be going over a lot of this later in a live stream. I will probably most likely be live streaming on the 2nd when the PTR goes live, so look forward to that. As always, this video is already 41 minutes long. As patch notes always tend to be on the longer side, don't they? As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, and let me know what you think about the changes down in the comments. I'm really interested to hear what you have to think. And as always, keep watching.